Chapter 2 of the Zen Teacher is called Zen Practice. The archer ceases to be conscious of himself as the one who is engaged in hitting the bullseye which confronts him. This state of unconsciousness is realized only when, completely empty and rid of the self, he becomes one with the perfecting of his technical skills, though there is in it something of a quite different order which cannot be attained by any progressive study of the art. That was said by Eugene Kierkegaard, Zen in the Art of Archery. Everything I ever needed to know about Zen I learned from Disneyland. If my family was planning a trip to the Magic Kingdom, the weeks before became pure torture. I spent all my waking hours waiting in agony, waiting for my parents to tell us what time we were leaving, waiting for school to end, waiting to pack up the car in the morning, my eyes heavy with sleep, my heart pounding with anticipation. I focused most of my brain power on this upcoming trip, picking the first ride I wanted to go on, thinking about which restaurants had the best food. I engaged in deep philosophical discussions with my friends about the relative value of Tomorrowland versus Fantasyland. And sleep the night before? Forget it. The next thing I knew, I was waking up the morning after the trip with only one question floating in my mind. What in the world just happened? I had dreamed for so long of going to the Matterhorn, Haunted Mansion, and the Pirates of the Caribbean rides, and now suddenly the trip was over. All I had were memories. What happened, I wondered, to the actual trip itself? Why did I have no recollection of actually being at Disneyland? No sense of enjoying the music, watching the parades, riding the rides, or snacking on popcorn and soda? Why was it already over? The answer, of course, is because at the time I had been totally immersed in the moment. Even as a child standing in line for the Jungle Cruise, my present moment awareness, more about that later, was so amplified and my inability to appreciate my immediate experience so profound that the actual adventure came and went without my having a real conscious sense of actually having had it. The irony was that I was intuitive enough to be in the moment, but I wasn't quite enlightened enough to know how to acknowledge or appreciate the moment I was in. And so it slipped by me, completely unnoticed and unacknowledged. I was focused. I was experiencing. I was so there that the next thing I knew, I wasn't. That's Zen for you. My youthful trips to Disneyland, therefore, can be counted as one of my earliest experiences with the Zen practice. To pursuit to pursuits, Zen practice typically refers to Zazen, a sitting meditation that teaches participants how to completely immerse themselves into the present moment. While initially a facet of Zen Buddhism, Zen, when used as a philosophy, is not connected to any particular religion or doctrine and can be practiced by someone of any faith or religious persuasion. For our somewhat broader purpose, I'd like to suggest that your Zen practice can be any activity that helps you hone your focus, improve your ability to stay rooted in the present, and be fully aware of what is happening directly before you. Zen is similar to what university professor Mikhail, it's a Russian name, named flow, a state of being in which you are so totally engaged by an experience that everything else melts away and you lose track of time. It's what athletes and artists describe when they say they're in the zone. If you were to call a friend and she said, "I'm sorry, I was outside gardening and I lost track of time, I didn't hear the phone ring," she was practicing. She was participating in her own Zen practice. This is, in part, what German philosopher Eugene Hergel was referring to in the quote at the beginning of this chapter when he said, "The archer ceases to be conscious of himself." And though Hergel said part of a Zen practice is the pursuit of the technical skill, he also suggests there is something of quite a different order which cannot be obtained by practicing, that is, the spiritual side. A Zen practice allows you to lose yourself in a greater sense of intuition, intensity, and energy that arises from both the focus on and the detachment from the activity at hand. For me, surfing always seems to be one of the most quintessential Zen practices. A single person, the surfer, makes attempt after attempt to become one with the element of nature, the wave, and experience both yin, riding the wave, and yang, frequent and inglorious wipeouts. The amateur surfer receives no money or other compensation for his effort. There is no finish line, no winner, no loser. So why do it? Because the surfer has found something that allows him to practice peace, experience flow, and become one with nature. Teaching, too, can be a Zen practice. When you are in their classroom, completely focused on your students or captivated by the lesson you are presenting, that's Zen. Perhaps you were caught up in your lecture on the Trail of Tears or lost in the physics project where students built and operated a balloon launcher, or maybe you were moved by a scene in the drama class where the student actors were totally present and in touch with the reality of the moment. Teaching ability to help us stay in the moment is one of our profession's greatest gifts and why it shares such a kinship with Zen. When our teaching comes from who we are and originates from our passions and our hearts, we increase the likelihood that we will experience flow and be in the zone. Being open to what may happen without sticking to rigid anticipated outcomes and showing compassion and gratitude to those you encounter in the classroom, the hallway, and the administration office allows you to treat your teaching moments as potentially transcendent experiences. In the interest of balance, you may also want to develop a Zen practice outside of the classroom. It can be any hobby or activity as long as it provides an experience that takes you beyond the immediate constraints of time and space and that replenishes your energy, passion, and vitality as a teacher. For some, as I said, it might be surfing. For you, it might be writing, sewing, singing, painting, acting, running, hiking, or bicycling. The key is to find a pursuit that is in sync with your personal rhythms and for which you can muster a bit of passion so that the practice will be fun and effortless. My father used music to pursue his own sense of Zen, though he never would have called it that. In the evenings, after putting in a full day's work at his job and then toiling a few more hours at a second job, my father sat in his recliner, turned on some classic rock or the blues, put his head back, and he was gone. He would mentally detach and remove himself from the worries of the day. Having witnessed these musical odysseys growing up, I have no doubt that he was truly in the zone. And if you ever asked him, I'm sure he'd say it was a pretty wonderful feeling. Much in the way my father used music as a teacher, you can intentionally create your own Zen moment in the classroom, which can lead to a great sense of peace and centeredness. With some luck and practice, you will notice a positive difference in your students as well as a result of you deciding to be more present and intentional with the moments you're given in the classroom. What is your Zen practice? In writing down the bones, freeing the writer within, author Natalie Goldberg's Zen teacher asked her, why don't you make writing your practice? If you go deep enough in writing, it will take you every place. Like Goldberg, I think of writing as part of my Zen practice. When a writing session is going well, there is nothing else on my radar. I am fully consumed by the words in front of me. It's a very pure, very liberating feeling. And it's one of the places in my life where I can lose myself fully in the now and truly be present. To discover your own Zen practice, ask yourself, what do I love? And where do I feel most in tune with the world, the universe, or myself? This may be where you discover the essence of the activity you want to pursue. As a teacher, your answer may of course lie in the classroom, but what about outside school? For example, your Zen practice could be gardening, fishing, cooking, or anything else that lets you focus on your passions, explore your obsessions, be in the moment, and experience flow. Remember, when you're pursuing your Zen practice, there is no goal, there is no finish line. It's the doing, the routine, rituals, and techniques that reward you. The performance of the task is your prize. I know this is a wildly foreign concept because we are accustomed to wanting to know what's in it for me. And even as a teacher, we have the tendency to focus on achieving objectives and outcomes. Now, think back to the surfer. While the surfer can enter competitions and vie for prizes, fame, money, and adulation from adoring fans, most people who don wetsuits and paddle out into the waves are, I suspect, just hoping to dance with the ocean one more time, feel the connection to nature, or, in a less poetic sense, simply get a little exercise. They use each wave as an opportunity to improve, to maybe spend a little more time on the board before falling off. A personal Zen practice can be a transformative way to pursue a greater sense of fulfillment, peace, and tranquility. What's nice is that you get to decide how committed you want to be to your Zen practice, regardless of where you are on the path, whether you're being introduced to Zen for the first time here or are choosing to study more in a discipline you've dabbled in. I hope this book will be a stepping stone for your Zen journey. Here's your Zen teacher assignment. So these are some questions I'd like you to think about. And you can write down the answer in your journal or your PLC notebook. What do you love to do? What activities do you participate in when you often lose track of time? What if you engaged in them regularly and used them as a vehicle for peace and focus? If that works for you, you may have just discovered your personal Zen practice.